What's up guys, Eric here. It's time for another AMA video where you can ask me anything anonymously. If you would like to possibly have your comment or question featured in this video series, go down to the description box and click the link there. We're gonna do 5 today, so let's get started. All right, first up, they say, hi, recent watcher. Hello, welcome to the channel. So by your definition, when is a negative review legitimate criticism versus grifting? We'll come back to that in a second. Also, I noticed you rarely do debunk videos on Tyrone, Magnus, or Snarky J. I don't think rarely even covers it. I've never done videos on either one of those people. I might have talked about them on a podcast, but I've never made videos about either one of them. I personally don't see Snarky as a pure grifter like Jesterbell. No, I wouldn't say that she's the same as Jesterbell. Snarky never pretends her opinions are based on facts. She always discloses her opinions are subjective. Well, it's not even about facts versus or subjective versus objective. It's not even just that. It really doesn't come down to that alone. I will say Snarky J does grifter content occasionally, but I wouldn't say she's 100% a grifter. I don't think every video that she makes has some sort of narrative in it. And to be fair, I haven't watched a lot of her recent videos, and maybe I'll do a deep dive on it. Maybe I'll go, because right now I'm talking on like my knowledge of her from like months ago. I haven't watched a lot of her more recent stuff. So I'm going to hold my opinion on that until I go watch her recent stuff. Now, Tyrone Magnus, the reason why I've never done a video on Tyrone is because of the fact that I've heard from a lot of people that Tyrone copyright claims and copyright strikes and DMCAs, anybody talking about him or using his content. So it would be hard for me to react or talk about his videos using examples if he's going to copyright claim them. So that's why I've stayed away from him. Now, Bob, Organized Chaos, who's on the Showcast with us, most weeks, did a video on Tyrone Magnus. And when I asked him a couple days after he made the video if he had any claims or anything, he said no. But I haven't followed up with him on that. So maybe I'll talk to him about that, and maybe I will cover Tyrone at some point. But Snarky J, I'll definitely look into, and maybe I'll do a video about her as well. So let's go back to the top comment here. So by my definition, when is a negative review legitimate criticism versus grifting? There's a lot of moving parts when trying to explain this, and I'll try to make it as easy as possible, okay? So for me, a legitimate review of something is you talk about it after you've seen it, and you talk about the actual things that happened in it, and you might make 1 or 2 videos about it, like a spoiler-free version, a spoiler video, and then you might even talk about it on some live streams. And then if there's other news around it, like a sequel's coming, or the actors talked about something that might be interesting in regards to the movie, you might cover that in that regard. That to me would be considered like actual, like good faith attempts at criticism and being a reviewer on social media, right? That's what that would be. Grifting to me is exploiting the trust of the people that watch your content. And you do that by creating a narrative months and sometimes years in advance before something comes out. There's nothing wrong with talking about a trailer. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you go out of your way to make 500 videos about Brie Larson or Rachel Zegler and go in and micro-analyze everything they do. You find a random interview out of like 500 interviews. You find one random interview where she makes a funny face or she says something like about, being positive about women or LGBTQ or something like that. You find that one thing, and then you spend months and months and months making video after video after video of that thing, leading into the release of the movie or the TV show coming out, saying it's gonna suck, it's woke, it's all these other things, saying all of that, and then watching that content and expecting us to get a good faith review out of you after you've invested months and sometimes years into attacking the project. It just, there's no way you go into that unbiased looking for a good movie. You can't. And they train their audiences this way. Their audience expect things to be bad. Now, their expectation is that everything is going to be bad. And if you go and you look at a critical drinker video or a neurotic video where they give even a little bit of grace and concession to something, the comments are littered. And you don't have to take my word for it. Go and look. Go and look at any positive review they've ever done and look at the comments under it. They're littered with people saying that it's still garbage. They're still not going to watch it. They're still not going to see it because these guys spend a lot of time astroturfing these things. And that is exploiting the viewers, the trust of your viewers. Not only that, but to go even further than that, when they make videos where I have caught them in this, where they're lying about the movies or the TV shows, they literally talk about it like they've never even watched it. Sometimes I don't even know if they have. So those are some big red flags about what kind of content you're going to get out of them. If you think Gary is going to spend a year talking shit about a specific movie, then go and see the movie and go, I was completely wrong. I was completely wrong. And then his viewers, which he's exploited, are going to be like, hey, let's go check this movie out and support it because he was wrong about it. That never happens. It never happens. And any reviewer, any critic that cares about ethics or anything like that would not do that. They would wait until something comes out, they would go and see it, then they would give their review about it. That is the way it has worked for years and years and years. This new batch of stuff we've had over the last 7 to 10 years with these channels specifically, it's very obvious to anybody watching, if you're not lost in the sauce with them, that this is not how criticism works. It's not how you review stuff. You don't astroturf it and then go, yeah, it's bad. You don't do that. That doesn't work. And they've been proven wrong on this many, many times with movies and TV shows. So for me, that's it. They're like exploiting the trust of their viewers, taking their viewers' intelligence for granted, and then not being able to convince their viewers that something is good when they've spent years talking shit about it. So you're not going to flip anybody around and have them go support something. This is why they never, ever really spend a lot of time talking about things they love. They just don't. They might mention it. People say, well, they mention it in the podcast, but are they making videos trying to get people to go out and see it and support it? No, they never do that. They never tell people to do that. So it's just all of those things. And there's even more. That's just a few of them. All of those things factor into that. But thank you for your comment. I do appreciate it. All right, let's get into our next comment here. Hey man, love your content. Thank you. I appreciate your support. Anyway, here's the question. What is the slop mentality I keep seeing in fandoms? Like they'll call anything slop, even if it's a film, even if a film is good like Fantastic Four or Superman, and it's not just grifters throwing the word around so loosely. So it's just it's a new buzzword being used in our vernacular to replace the word woke. Woke has been co-opted and it's being used by mainstream media, and it has diluted the pipeline and the algorithm these guys held on to for years. One of the worst things that could have happened for them is for the term woke to break out, because they lost a word they were using quite often in their titles, thumbnails, tags, to get people to click on their content. And it no longer resonates the same way it did before because of the emotional connection that they're trying to build with their viewers, that parasocial, that toxic, negative parasocial relationship they're trying to build with their viewers requires them to have some sort of emotional response to that. So the term slop doesn't speak to the ideology that woke is. It speaks to the emotional feelings of the viewers that are watching the content. So for example, it's insinuating that you are watching bad content and they're just churning out bad content for you to graze on, right? Like your cattle out there grazing and all they're giving you is slop, right? Or pigs, you're just getting slop. And they do this because it makes their viewers feel emotionally abused by these studios, right? They feel as if the studios are taking their feelings for granted, their intelligence for granted, and they're using this word now to replace woke because the woke ideology rhetoric that they pushed has pretty much been debunked so many times, right? So if you use the term slop, it's speaking about quality, and then you're speaking about how you feel about something versus like objectivity. Because these guys lived in the world of objectivity for years. They lived in this world where they could objectively prove that something is bad. And they've been proven wrong on that so many times over and over and over again with content that they've critiqued, that now they have to move into the feelings over facts, which is the slop stuff. And just like with any word that gets used by these guys, over time, it reaches into culture and people start repeating it and saying it, which is why you're hearing other people besides grifters say it, because it is a word that doesn't require you to be in the grifting space to talk about, to use. So it's a very insidious term. And if you go back and you look at the SHILL cast, our live streams that we do on Wednesdays, if you go back and you look like 2 months ago, 3 months ago, Actually, I think it was before that. I think it was before the summer. We talked about the fact that slop was going to be their new word. They were going to start talking about it, and they were going to start using it in their videos and thumbnails and stuff like that. And they have. And we were right, again, about this. So the word slop is going to be around for a while. They're going to keep using it until it no longer resonates emotionally. And that could take years. So unless a new, better term comes around, I think we're just going to have to hear it. And it sucks because it's just another negative buzzword that they're going to latch onto. Thank you for your comment. All right. So yes, this is a wall of text, and I wasn't going to include this in the video, but I have changed my mind because I think it's important to discuss some of the stuff that's in this comment, because if this comment is in good faith, there's some stuff that needs to be explained here. There's some education that needs to happen here that I think is actually important. So we're going to leave it in. I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm not going to stop and address anything specifically until we read the whole comment. All right. So stick with me here. Let's go. I'm asking this in good faith, not a troll, but just curious. Are you female to male trans or an actual biological male? I noticed in a video that you do not have arm hair, and the thought came to my mind about what you are. No hate if you are. I support trans. I've just observed that many female to male trans men identify as gay men. I'm unsure of the reason. Of course, they cannot be expected to be lesbians as they are no longer women, but are gay men because they were born in the wrong body yet are still attracted to men, but in a different way from when they used to be in a woman's body, especially when it comes to sex, as they are no longer having sex as a woman, but a man with another man. Also curious, what are you going to do with your arm tattoo? It appears and then disappears in different videos, which made me think you might place makeup over it and try to hide it for work-related reasons. That's funny. Sorry, let me continue. Maybe this is why you do not have any arm hair. Sorry for being nosy about the questions. These are superficial questions, but I was curious about them. Thanks for your videos. I enjoy them and feel you're on the right side of history. Okay, so I want to say this. I don't know if this is in good faith, but I'm going to take it as a good faith question because they said in the beginning it's good faith and they're not trolling. But there's a few things in this that I think need to be addressed, and no hate towards the person that left this comment. I have no idea who they are, obviously, but there's some stuff that I think we need to go over to sort of unpack here. Okay. So I am a cisgender gay man. Okay. I am not trans. If I were trans, I would talk about it in my videos, as a point of reference for myself, but I am not. But I have a lot of trans people in my life, people that I love and care about, many people here on YouTube that I have associated with. I've been involved with the trans community since the 90s. So I've been around trans people pretty much all of my adult life. And no, I'm not trans, I am cis. The comment goes on to say, I've noticed in a video that you don't have any arm hair, and the thought came to mind about what you are. No hate. If you are, I support trans. I've just observed that many female to male trans men identify as gay men. I am unsure of the reason. Of course, they cannot be expected to be lesbians. They are no longer women, but gay men because they were born in the wrong body. Don't use the term wrong body. That's just not something you would say to a person in general, but to trans people specifically. Wrong body, it's a term, it's terminology that was used years and years ago. I know a lot of trans people that I know today don't like that term being used because some trans people have no dysphoria at all with their gender or the way they look. And other trans people do want to align their physical body, their phenotypic body with their gender identity. But I don't think a lot of them, at least the ones, and I'm not speaking for all of them, want to put that out there. I think a lot of people who are trans would prefer not to have the term wrong body used in association with them. So just want to throw that out there if you are truly doing this in good faith. Yet are still attracted to men, but in a different way from the way they used to be in a woman's body, especially when it comes to sex. They are no longer having sex as a woman, but as a man with another man. Okay, so I just want to take a moment to really talk about this portion of the comment, because I think this portion is really, really important. Okay, it's really important because I believe the misunderstanding of this has led to a lot of the rhetoric, a lot of the hate, a lot of the knots that overlap with each other when it comes to understanding the queer community and the different portions of the queer community, everything from like gay men to lesbians to trans people to just the entire community. And I think the thing is, we just don't have enough education out there for people to understand us and therefore aren't confused by our community and need this kind of information be provided for them or accessible to them. And that's why we're seeing so many conservatives try to take this information away from people, because this information humanizes us to people that don't understand us. And I think that's extremely important. So I'm going to take a moment to really dive into this. So just indulge me, please, for a second as I go through this. So sex, sexuality, and gender are three different things. And although they do hold hands, they're not the same person. They're holding their hands together in this world, right? They're existing in this world as things that sort of overlap a little bit, okay? So when we're talking about sex, genotypic sex, that is what makes you up on the inside. Like, you would consider that be biological. So everything that's going on inside your body is the genotypic aspects of your sex, okay? Then you have gender. Gender is your outward expression of who you are inside in terms of what that looks like in the community around you. And that can range from people that feel very comfortable aligning that sex and that gender together into one thing, and people who feel like they're on the other side of that, which is what trans is, on the other side. Cis is the same side, trans is the other side. So for myself, I am someone who is genotypically male. My gender identity is man, and those two things align together for me, so I am a cisgender person. Okay? If I were someone who genotypically was female, but my gender expression and who I felt like on the inside was a man, then I would be, and I express that in the typical way you would see as a man expresses in gender identity, then I would be a transgender person. So that's what that is. That's the difference between gender and sex, is how you express the phenotypic aspects of who you are. So you have genotypic, you have phenotypic, right? Those two things that when they don't line up, that is how a person is trans. I was going to say becomes trans, but that's not the accurate way to say that. They are trans. These are trans people. That is who they are inside as a person and how they express that outwardly. Now, there's a million things we could talk about that happen between genotypic and phenotypic that cause these things to exist in our world, but that's way too deep for this video. Basically, sex and gender, two different things. One is a phenotypic expression of your identity on the inside. The other is a genotypic biological component of your body. Now, that's a crash course explanation. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who could probably explain it a lot better than that, but that's what we have. Then you have sexuality. Sexuality is something different from both of those things. Again, it overlaps with those things, but it's not always in the same basket with this. So for example, a transgender man who is a man who ends up being in a relationship with another man, whether they are cisgender or transgender, that would be expressing their sexuality in that relationship, how they feel about each other. Because we've established that gender and sex are different, and that's also different from sexuality. Same thing as if I am with another man, whether they be trans or cis, that's also an expression of that sexuality between myself and the other person. And then there's all different types of sexuality: bisexuality, pansexuality, asexuality, homosexuality, heterosexuality. There's tons of them out there. And they can all be expressed depending on what that gender identity is, overlapping with your sexuality and how that looks phenotypically outside of that. So that's probably very confusing, but just know this. If you want the TDLR here, gender, sex, sexuality, not the same thing. They all live in the same house, but they're three different people. They're renting three different rooms in this house that they're in. And if you would like to know more about that, I can cover that in another video. All right, let's continue. Also curious, what's going on with your arm tattoo? It appears and then disappears in different videos, which made me think you might place makeup over it to try and hide it for work-related reasons. No, it's art. It's just artwork. Like, these are all like fun tattoos. They're not, like, I don't actually have actual tattoos. We've ordered them online to try and see how to apply them and what techniques we can use. So that's what it is. That's all it is. They're not real tattoos in that sense. Maybe one day I'll be brave enough to actually go out and get the one I want. We'll see. But no, there's no covering up. I've talked about this in other videos. They're not real. They're just for fun. Maybe this is why you don't have arm hair. I actually do have arm hair, but that doesn't really, like, it's hard to tell, like, on camera because I have to get really close or whatever. But I don't think that's a real good way to judge whether somebody is trans or cis, as if they have arm hair or something. I just don't think that's a good thing. It's like, don't do that. It's not polite. Sorry for being nosy about the questions. These are superficial questions, but I was curious about them. Thank you for the videos. I enjoy them and feel you're on the right side of history. I appreciate you and your support, and I hopefully was able to give you respectful answers in that. And, you know, there we go. Any more questions on that, you can leave it in the comments down below. Anybody that has questions on. All right, next up, are there any channels that you actually oppose but like the content? Meaning, is there anyone from the anti-woke sphere who you think has good videos and you can understand the success even if you don't personally like them? Anyone or no one at all? Well, I wouldn't consider like liking the content. Like if you're asking me if I understand why people watch certain types of content, yes. The psychological reasons, the emotional connections, the parasocial reasons why. Yeah, 100%. I know why people watch them. And I even know that like videos like, Nerdrotic and Critical Drinker, their editors are really good at putting together these high quality looking videos. So yeah, I get it. I understand like the success of that and how they managed to do that. I understand, but I don't like their content. Like I wouldn't use it that way. But I do understand why their content is highly regarded and why people click on it outside of just the psychological thing. Like if you're stumbling on their channel for the first time, you see that their content as it's produced in a way that looks high level, and therefore you feel it legitimizes what they do. Like the more money you put into your content, the more legitimate it looks on YouTube. And that's why I think a lot of them have found success, is because it's well done, edited videos, slick content that has been able to pull people in, like CinemaSins and stuff like that. Like that's what I think. Like I personally, though, I don't like any of that content. I don't like it. I think that it might be well done, but that doesn't mean I like it. Thank you for your comment. All right, so I saved this one for last because I wanted to have a little bit of fun. I've already kind of covered this in another video, but we're going to talk a little bit more about it here. It says, are you a paid Disney shill? I'm serious. No, you're not. Are you on the payroll? It seems like no matter what the movie or show is, how bad or good, you will fight tooth and nail to defend Disney. The chuds suck ass. Your criticism on them are spot on, as it's become clear that they are talentless, lying pieces of shit and contribute nothing other than magnifying the culture of outrage that thrives on the YouTube grifting space. But it feels sus that you're also so devoted to holding the line for every product Disney churns out. I don't even know where to begin on this one. I have been very critical of Disney many, many, many times. I've talked about Disney having a bad history with the way they treat their employees. They've got plenty of lawsuits they've had over the years that prove that they don't really care about the low-level employees, people who aren't their major stars. If you're an artist or somebody working at the parks, they don't really hold you at the same level they do everybody else. Like, they're not a great company to work for. However, in capitalism, there are no great companies. There aren't any. Like, you would have to, like I said this, like I said, I've said this before. If you truly believe that the right thing to do when it comes to these large corporations is that they're putting out awful content, you would not support it at all. Meaning these guys wouldn't even talk about it. They would boycott it 100%. But they are leeches on that system. That's what they're doing. They're leeching off that system. Okay. So that's why they make the content they make. And the only reason I'm even bringing that up is because is shilling just being open and unbiased about the content that you're looking at, knowing that the companies are all these companies are bad? Like, the entertainment industry as a whole is pretty fucking awful, the way they treat people. And it's not just like Disney doing it. It's everything, every aspect of it. Every aspect of how we treat celebrities in general usually has a bunch of negativity tied to it. So that's why I'm bringing it up. Like is being a shill someone that looks at something and gives it a shot in the world we live in? I've been very critical over a lot of things that Disney's put out. Captain America 4. I've said, it's gone on record, that I think that movie was destroyed in the third act. I think that whatever they decided to do behind the scenes, they had to pull it together at the last minute to try and make it work. But guess what? It has nothing to do with a black man being Captain America. It has nothing to do with woke shit. It has nothing to do with anything like that. So I think what you're confusing here is that if I'm going to criticize something, it's going to be based on the actual product and not some stupid ideology culture war shit. I'm going to judge it based on what it is, what I saw, and how I felt about it. For example, I think Thunderbolts was an incredible film. I think Fantastic Four was really good. I think Captain America 4 was unfortunately not a great movie. I think things like Secret Invasion were absolute shit. I think there's been plenty of things they've done over the years that I've criticized as a company. Releasing all of Ironheart so quickly, dumping it all at the last minute, treating Eyes of Wakanda like it's nothing, throwing it all out at one time, all in the same day. Somebody like Ryan Coogler, who's a massive talent in the industry, treating his content like that. Like, there's a lot of things you could criticize Disney over. The usage of AI, there's a lot of stuff. But do they talk about Disney that way? Do they criticize those things about Disney? Or is it always feminism, ideology, wokeness? Like, there has to be a space where criticism can occur, where if I like something and I really like it and I want to go to bat for it because I believe in the art, that doesn't necessarily make me a shill. What does that look like? What does that look like to everybody? Honestly, what reality is it where someone can give a glaringly positive review about something they truly enjoyed and not be called a shill? Like, seriously, that's a serious question. Because I feel like anytime someone says anything positive about a franchise or something they love, it's automatically like, well, Disney must be paying you. That's crazy. What kind of accusation is that? But I don't even think that's I don't think you're serious about that. I think you just want to talk about the concept of shilling, and it's always like, are they paying you? Are they paying you? Bro, if they were paying me to make this kind of content, like to make positive content about Disney, you would see me making Disney videos every single day. I would be 3-4 Disney videos a day. 3-4 Disney videos a day just talking nothing but positively about it. I wouldn't even bring up these guys. I wouldn't even bring them up because I wouldn't have to. There's a million other channels that exist on YouTube that do nothing but hype Disney. And that's it. That's the only reason they exist. But I think it's really funny that people come over and say that I'm never critical of Disney, but I constantly, on my live streams, constantly criticize companies like Disney, Sony, Netflix, Warner Brothers for bad things that I think they're doing. It's almost every time I'm live, I talk about it. So how is it that I'm a Disney shill, but I'm also critical of Disney? The difference is when I criticize Disney about stuff, whether it be AI art or things they're doing that I consider to be negative towards the gay community, the trans community, things like that. The difference is I'm actually judging them based on things they have done versus perceived ideology and culture war shit, which is what these guys do. So there's a difference. Ethics and AI. Issues that Bob Chapek made, issues that Bob Iger made with them, problems with some of their films that have come out, whether it be their decisions with Star Wars, like not making a Star Wars movie in forever. There's lots of things you can criticize Disney over. The difference is it is not polarizing and hate-filled like these guys. And so the nuance of that criticism gets lost because people have been taught that the only criticism you can have is hate. There's no other criticism. That is a problem that exists in our culture right now. That's something we're dealing with right now. And the fact that you left this comment for me tells me that you don't understand that nuance yourself. Because if you did, then you would know that being critical of a company doesn't always mean calling everything woke.